Welcome to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Leah. I really enjoy saving money, shopping frugally, and sharing my tips and recipes with you. So if any of that interests you, stick around. This is Savvy Saute. In this video, I am sharing what I did with a box of lasagna pasta noodles. I was able to pick these up really cheap, 75 cents at a discount store, and I went ahead and started by boiling just a portion that I needed for this first recipe. I looked up a recipe for one of my husband's favorite appetizers to order as a meal, lasagna frita, and it calls for ricotta cheese lasagna. That's what you use in it, but I wanted to try a more frugal option to share with you, so I'm using 2 cups of cottage cheese, 1 egg, and it said a half a cup of mozzarella and Parmesan cheese, but it ended up being a little bit more than half a cup, and if half a cup is good, then 2/3 cup has to be better, right? And then I just put some seasoning. It called for Italian, and I had this 21 seasoning salute that worked really well. I mixed that up. You could probably blend it more so it wouldn't be as chunky, but once it melts, you can't tell that it was originally chunks of cheese. My husband said he would have preferred the ricotta cheese. So from a budget standpoint, this absolutely works. But from a flavor point, if you absolutely do not like cottage cheese, then go ahead and spend a little bit more and get the ricotta. Now, surprisingly, coming from a cooking channel on YouTube, this was my first time making any kind of lasagna roll up, and I honestly was a little more intimidated than I should have been. So if you've been putting it off like I was, go ahead, buy the box of noodles and make a lasagna roll up. Even if you don't fry it, this was so easy. I made more than I needed for the fried portion. I'm saving some of those for another recipe. But once you just lay the mixture out, you roll it up into 3 portion rolls, if you will, or folds. And then I ended up freezing them on that parchment paper so they would be solid enough to then fry later. So my completed portion was 7 of these rolls, and I stuck those in my freezer. We left, went to church. We were gone for about 3 hours, so that's how long they were frozen. When I came home, I went ahead and used panko breadcrumbs as the recipe suggested. Those are going to give a more crunchy texture. I'm not sure that regular breadcrumbs would be as good in this recipe. The 1 egg I mixed with a little bit of water, and that is what I coated the outside of the lasagna rolls with, and I heated in a skillet about 1 inch of oil. So once you get the lasagna rolled into the egg mixture, you're going to completely cover all the sides with that. Then you're going to cover all the sides with the breadcrumbs. And it was a little bit tricky. I think because it was frozen, it was cold, it didn't want to stick as well. It was a little hard, but just work a little bit, get that on there, and then test the oil to make sure before you start frying that it's hot enough. So I just kind of drop a little, couple of breadcrumbs in there, or you can splash a little bit of water on there. And if it starts to bubble and pop, then you know the oil is hot enough. Next, I went ahead and put them down into the oil. I was able to fit 4 into my cast iron skillet, and then you just fry them on all sides, including those folded edges. We topped ours with some mozzarella cheese, some Parmesan cheese, and then served it with some marinara meat sauce and some steamed asparagus. For this next recipe, I boiled just enough of the noodles to make a half of a batch of lasagna. 9 noodles ended up being all that we needed. Once I had the pasta boiled, I went ahead and got started with the sauce. I wanted to use some vegetables for this, and I chose some peppers that I already had in my freezer. I like to buy peppers when they're on sale or on clearance, and then chop them up and put them in my freezer for me to just pull out and use whenever I want. In the large pot, I also added some Alfredo sauce. I already had my own homemade that I could just reuse, but you could also use some store-bought kind and add in other vegetables if you want. I used a handful of chopped spinach that was fresh and some onion, and then those peppers that I talked about, and then I layered it on the pasta with the chopped chicken that I had seasoned and some mozzarella cheese that was shredded, and I just repeated this process 3 times. Once I had it all layered together, I just covered it with some saran wrap, stuck it in my fridge, and then it was ready to just pop in the oven right before my husband got home from work, and it turned out so perfect. This is something you could easily turn into a freezer meal recipe. Just put it into an aluminum pan, cover it with foil, and you're good to go. For the last recipe, I used the remaining lasagna roll-ups that I had in the freezer, and I just put them into a baking dish, and then I covered them with some sauce that I already had in my freezer that I made. It's just a meat sauce and tomato with some seasoning, and then after that was covered, I put some cheese on it. Then I stuck that into the oven at 400 degrees. It only needed to cook for about 30 minutes. But I forgot about it. So we ended up with a horrible smoky mess, and it was not edible. If you're looking to follow a professional cook, I'm sorry, I'm not that girl, but we have fun. All right, so that is it for the lasagna box noodle challenge. And I didn't end on such a high note, but all the other recipes were pretty good. And if you don't burn the lasagna roll-ups, if you have any other ideas what you would have done with a box of lasagna, I want to hear it in the comments below. I like to implement some of your ideas, and then I could share it with you all in a future video. So let me know what you thought. See you in the next video. Thank you all so much for supporting and subscribing to this channel. We are halfway to our 1,000 subscriber goal, and I can't wait to get there.